Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for Politically Incorrect Knitters. I'm Deplorable Knitter, and I'm joined as always this week by Pinkava. Can't get that sentence out today. We are very thrilled and excited to have a guest today. We're joined by Infiniti of Infiniti Craft Company.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for joining us today. You want to tell our people a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I've been crocheting for like 10 years. I picked it up as something of a therapeutic hobby. And then about 5 years into it, I decided that design was a thing for me, and I started doing that. And here I am now on the internet for the last 5 years, showing people how to crochet and knit and do all that fun fiber art stuff. So I'm here with that. guess I have a background in art education. I was going to be an art teacher for a little bit, and then I shifted that more so into a business thing. So now I'm pursuing my own business. So, some pretty typical stuff.
No, that's pretty cool. Yeah, like you said, you don't just design, you've got like a whole bunch of education stuff on there. And then seeing as you're an artist yourself, you've got like every time you put up a new thing about your pottery holder things, like I look at them and I think about them, and then I'm just never like one of these days I'm going to buy one. I just haven't found the perfect one. I know they're all a little bit different. I'm just waiting for that one that's mine, you know?
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, no, I definitely have a big batch of stuff that I made up this previous semester while I was in classes. So I haven't posted everything that I have yet. So I'm sure something will be coming down the pike pretty soon. I'm planning another shop update over the summer. So maybe your special yarn bowl or vase will be in that slot.
I'm hopeful, really. But it's all so pretty, and it's you're doing what a lot of people are doing, but it's not the same, which is kind of nice. A lot of people are like just straight up designers, or they're just straight up yarn dyers, and you've kind of got like a bunch of different things going on, which makes your shop a little bit more unique.
Yeah, it keeps me on my toes a little bit. I guess I kind of grew up a little paranoid about like putting all my eggs in one basket. So I kind of like to bounce around with my skill set and kind of cater, not to everybody, but like just cater. So there's something there for everybody. So if somebody doesn't like how my patterns are written, they might see something else and they're like, oh, well, I still want to support you, that kind of thing. So just kind of really making use of my creative mindset, so to speak.
And it's really interesting too with your work how you sort of take that, art background and also art teaching background and turn it into crochet tutorials, or how you work your colors is very unique. Or I was watching a video that you did when you went through your different pottery pieces, and you were talking about how you would how you had done some porcelain and how the porcelain behaves different than other clay that you have previously used, and then how that turns out in the dyes. And it's really fascinating. I mean, we've talked to some of our dyer friends, they'll talk about how dyes take with different yarns, but that sort of same mentality, but with pottery, is very interesting.
Yeah, and I could totally nerd out about glazes and whatnot. I swear I hated chemistry when I took it, but it's a whole nother pony when it comes to pottery because of how the different chemicals in the glazes react to the temperatures, and you can add stuff to it to make it do crackling and all kinds of stuff. But that's about the only time that I use chemistry. Oh my gosh. When I got out of that first chemistry class in college, I was like, I'm never going back. And then I've come full circle and ended up back like using it because I have to mix some of my own glazes to get those colors. So, it kind of pays to know what I'm doing so I don't blow anything up, but
right. Well, that's always a bonus.
Most definitely.
But no, it is really interesting. So you talked about doing crochet for a while, but is pottery something you picked up like in art school, or is that something that you've also been doing for a while?
Let me see. I feel like it was about 6 years ago when clay became a thing for me, because I've always been artsy, like my whole life been artsy. I was mostly a traditional artist, drawer, painter, that sort of thing, and I'm good at it, not in a gloaty way, but I'm really good at that. And I found that when I started dabbling in the clay in this mixed media class, I was like, I'm not good at this. So I was drawn to it in a way that, made me have to work for my results. And I took that and I was kind of sculptural with it for a while. And now that I'm at a university as the setup for it, I've really been into the pottery thing and been able to explore the wheel and things like that and what I do like and don't like. So it's new, but it's not new in a way. And I'm just now able to figure out how I want to incorporate that in my business, because for a while I put the art down outside of school because I'm like, I can't really incorporate paintings into crochet stuff. It's not the same market. So I was really kind of happy to hear with people like, oh, you should make yarn polls. I actually put out a few community polls about, hey, what kind of stuff you want to see? And by and large, my audience was like, hey, stuff for the craft room would be really great. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try these yarn bowls out. And people really seem to like them. As you guys pointed out, they're different. I haven't quite mastered making them all look the same yet, but I think that's kind of working for me. So kind of a happy accident. But
Yeah.
yes, to answer your question, it wasn't always a thing, but now it is a thing for me.
That's it's so funny because most crafters you talk to, they've got a lot of stuff like that. And my mom, she can knit, crochet, do all kinds of stuff. She goes back to tatting time and again because it's something that's hard for her. And I think that, you want to be good at your stuff. You want to like be the top, but also you want it to be challenging to you.
Yeah,
So you got to find a way to make that happen sometimes, which is cool.
definitely. Yeah. And I think with like crafts like crocheting and knitting, it's really repetitive. We get into the swing of it, and then as you make it into a designing type thing, then you're really into it and you kind of know what you're doing, so it just comes second nature to you, whereas the arts are more 3D, like more tangible. So like if you're not good at it, you gotta have to put your mind into it more, and it just kind of keeps things interesting for you in the long term. So yeah, but tatting is interesting. I've never actually tried it. So more power to your mom, but it looks interesting.
Yeah, it is, and I've never tried it either, but she can do it. It's just it's not something that comes easily, so it's kind of interesting to see. I think we're all kind of drawn to that stuff. Like I've been looking at new patterns. I don't usually knit lace, and all of a sudden I have this like overwhelming desire to do something with lace, and I think it's because I'm like I want a little bit of a challenge. I can make a stranded colorwork hat in my sleep, as most people know, but lace is like, okay, so I was working on this. It's a headband. It is literally just like a couple of yarn overs and knit two together, and I messed it up already. Like this should be so easy. It's like,
yeah, that color,
but it's hard for me. So you know what I mean? Like it's just funny. But
there's kind of a difference in the, two different ways to relax while knitting. The totally mindless knitting, like you're knitting while doing something else, while watching TV, whatever, you don't have to pay attention. Or the thing like, no, I need something that takes my whole brain right now. I don't want to think about anything else. I want to figure out this project, like this puzzle. I want it to go forward.
Mm-hmm. That is true. But we're not allowed to just shut up and craft, I brought it up before we started recording, but this is going to be a little bit old news because we're recording this a bit early, but Knit Picks came out with their line of pride flags, and it just kills me. This pandering that everybody is doing is just out of control, and sometimes it's okay to just want to craft.
Yeah. No, I saw that like I said last night while I was doom scrolling, it just popped up for me. I'm like, I don't care, and I don't want to say it in a way that sounds mean, but it's like, people are who they are, whatever, they live how they want to live. It has nothing to do with me. Please stop cramming it down my throat at every turn, And I found the comment section interesting. Where I don't like drama, I do like to read comment sections. And it was like split 50-50. Half of the people were like, well, screw y'all. And then the other half were like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And you know what? To each their own. But I don't feel like I have to support something that maybe doesn't align with my values or something like that, And it's wild to me because the crafting community is horribly divisive, and it has been for a while. When it comes to things like this, because they'll say if you don't support those types of patterns or those types of designers or whatever, you're a bigot or this and that. And it's like literally most of us who are upset about them doing this or cramming it down our throat. It's either a religious reason, but most of us have family or friends that are, like, live that lifestyle, and we don't judge them. They're still our best friends or favorite family members, but we don't live like that, and we don't want it just thrown at us. So I think that
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with us saying that.
No, you're totally right. And one of the comments that I really, really appreciated said something like, doesn't anybody else think it's weird that you have a flag that tells people who you'd like to have sex with? Like, it's weird. That's the part of it that I'm stuck on. Like, because there's the trans and the bi and the ace and the, like, all of these things, demi, I don't even know what they are, like all these different ones. And I'm like, do we need to be that specific with our flags? Like
they're very niche, you know. I feel like these people be very good at business marketing because they are able to break down and compartmentalize into different sects, and you know, that would probably be a really good field for them in that respect. But it does get very confusing, and then it's almost ad nauseum because everywhere you turn, almost every other month in the year, it's like, oh, pride this, pride that, pride this, pride that, and it's like, you know, especially as Christian designers, we get kind of ragged on a bit, but in our teaching, it's, you know, pride comes before the fall. Pride is not a good thing in the Bible. So, you know, we don't want to celebrate it, and that should be fine, but it's not for whatever reason. If we don't, we're just, you know, persona non grata or something like that. I'm tired of it. I've kind of tuned out because it's like it drones on and on and on and on and on and on and on. It gets aggravating. So
it does. It's just sorry.
you're fine.
Today when I saw those flags, I was like a yarn company put like their time and effort into marketing this, and I'm just kind of like, you could like bring so many more people in just by like offering like yarn kits. Or I mean, I've been blocked by Knit Picks for many years now because of the Ravelry thing. And then they didn't block me after Ravelry though. They blocked me when I asked them why they gave a voice to liberal people but not conservatives. Nobody answered me, and then I was blocked because apparently that comment was just too much.
Clearly,
So
you know,
I just want to know, like, tell me. So I'm sorry, but where are you located?
Missouri.
What state? Missouri?
Yeah.
Okay. So Missouri is pretty conservative then, right?
Yeah, for the most part, if you're not, you know, in a blue city.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm in New York. It doesn't matter if you're in a blue city or not. Everything here is terrible.
I'm so sorry.
So I knew that you were somewhere conservative. I just couldn't remember where.
Yeah, so the good old West.
Is that near you, Anne?
Not really.
No?
Sorry, I'm in South Dakota. So
okay.
Yeah, so we're not really close at all. But hi.
So I've told Anne, this is how the state, the country looks to me. I know all of the East Coast states. I know all of the West Coast states. And then there's a lot of stuff in the middle that I get confused about.
Typical New Yorker.
Yeah, basically.
I can't help it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're not the only one. There's just, you know, there's New York, there's Los Angeles, and then there's Horn. So you're not at fault there. But I bounced around a lot of states. Just my mom liked to move around a lot, so I'm familiar with a lot of stuff, mostly in the Midwest. But I've also lived in Texas, and I think it was South Carolina for a spell. So you know, touched the East Coast, but we quickly came back to the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but anyway, totally irrelevant.
No, that's fine. So you're pretty conservative then. Is your family also? Or
my grandmother is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not so much, you know.
Is it one of those things where, like, because you guys don't agree on politics, you hate each other, or are you okay? That might be too personal. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I don't think it's a hate thing. Now, like some family member, I mean, some people in general will just get heated because, they want you to agree with them on everything. Yeah. But it's kind of funny watching their faces when you bring them facts and like show them things. Because I am one of those like petty people that will have a whole list of screenshots and be like this, and this. And
let me show you my graph that I made you.
I'm like the guy with the red string, like, and this is why this XYZ. This is the whole cause behind 9/11. And they're like, you know what? We're not going to touch those two. So,
It's like, hang on, I have a PowerPoint. I'll just set up my little projector. We'll click through these.
That's the only missing part. But yeah, no, I don't think there's really much hate at all politically. I think a lot of my family are really apolitical in general. I don't know, really socialize a lot. We're kind of homebodies. We don't really.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
that's great.
I think a lot of people are pretty apolitical. I think that, like, because of what Anne and I do, I tend to be in this group that is really super not apolitical. But I think, like, most people you talk to,
Yeah,
like, know some of the issues, but they're not hanging out watching it like the rest of us go.
oh yeah, that's true. I feel like, what was it? Probably 2016 was probably when I became actually politically aware. But before that, I was just kind of floating along. What, 2016? I think I was 18. So, I was a kid, didn't really think much of anything, but I knew from, like, when I would listen to politicians, first of all, they always lie, like all of them do. But when I would listen to different ones and kind of actually dissect what they're talking about and the different policies that they wanted to implement and whatnot, I'm like, well, this, and this makes sense. And I didn't have a name for that. And then if somebody was like, oh, these conservatives suck, or, burn them all. I'm like, okay, that sounds a little mean, but okay. Oh my God, I will never forget in 2020, after I was like, okay, I'm solidly conservative. And I think literally all of my other friends are not.
Right.
And
well,
one
being
of the
an art student, that would be difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I got into a conversation with a Lyft driver one time, and he's like, what's your major? I'm like, art. And he's like, you think like this and you're an art student. So that was a funny moment. But you're right. It's not very common at all for, like, a conservative person to be in the arts. And if there are, they don't talk out because everybody around them is like, oh, I murdered them. So,
Yeah. I think it's pretty funny when you're talking to somebody who doesn't know your political background and they're like, oh, those evil people. And you're like, hi, we work together every day. Do you think?
I had a moment like that. A former friend of mine, whatever, we were good friends, I thought. And we were just all kicking back, and they were like, oh yeah, the Christians, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm Christian. And he looked at me like, you're a Christian? Like, yeah. And from that point on, there was this, like, rift or whatever, and they eventually drifted off. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting. I've never once judged you or your lifestyle or anything, but as soon as you associate a label with me, then you want to see me in a different light. I'm like, that's a personal problem.
Yeah.
A lot of things just roll off of my back, so I don't care
Sure.
anymore.
So when you were saying that, you started to pay attention to things politically, would you say that there was a specific issue or something that really, brought you from just thinking like, oh yeah, whatever politics, to specifically paying attention to conservative politics or not, or just because it was election season?
Well, let me see. It was my first semester in college, and so I was in a lot of that, and people, of course, were just talking about it. And the more I, like, overheard, I was like, well, I know what my Christian values teach me, and so I was just kind of associating my Christian values and seeing what touched where with that.
Sure.
And at that point, I was like, oh, okay, well, apparently most conservatives are conservative because they're Christian. I mean, that's not always the case, but in that moment, I'm like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of conservatives go to church and, like, interact with the Lord and things like that. So it was just how it associated or related back to my belief system. That's all.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
kind of like how with the Ravelry thing, when that all happened with the, kicking all the Trump supporters off, that it was sort of a weird thing because it kind of kicked a lot of the Christians off Ravelry too. Not that because you're a Christian, you must support Trump, but if you're a Christian, you're probably pro-life. And if you're pro-life, you're probably going to vote Republican, and all of these different things too, that, if you had a flag picture on your bio, then that's it, you're out.
Yeah, that was wild. I'd been on Ravelry probably for a year and a half when they started doing all that, and I don't remember exactly what I said when I made my video about leaving Ravelry, but I found it unfortunate that the people that were like, oh, we can have civil discourse and, oh, we can be tolerant and things like things that I grew up hearing, those very same people were not what they were preaching. And it's like, I know a lot of people do not practice what they preach, but in that moment, I felt very disgusted. I was already annoyed that they were like kind of jamming the pride stuff down my throat as it was. And I'm like, well, this doesn't really reflect how I want my brand to, play out too. So I was just like, you know what, it's not worth being here. So see ya. And I left. And it was a very, I think, unifying moment for a lot of crafters, regardless of being kicked off a platform. But a lot of us were just like, you know what, we're going to stick together and we're going to do our own thing. And it was a really nice thing for a lot of people, honestly. And I've heard in recent months that Ravelry has just gone to utter crap because nobody's there. So, you can't really have your cake and eat it too in that regard. Like, you can't alienate most or half of your audience and then expect to thrive, is what I think. But
yeah, and I think a lot of people are learning that now. I mean, there's been the Bud Light thing and Target, and
hilarious.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping that some people follow through with nitpicks too. I mean, I've always said that they don't agree with us. Like, they've pretty much been like, if you're conservative, there, that's more or less the thing. Like, you're not really our people. And so it's when I posted about their pride flags today, I said, if you've been saying, oh, well, their politics aren't that bad, look at what they're offering now. Because, like, at some point you have to stand with what you believe. And
yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of, like, I've struggled with some of the boycotts because my dad's actually worked for Budweiser for 30 odd years, and so it's been hard on him, and he's just a guy who just works there, and I feel bad, and that makes me sad. But also, sooner or later we have to take a stand, and it is going to hurt some of the regular people, unfortunately. But, like, 13 pride flags, they had 13 flags up. I'm sorry, I can't believe that there are 13 flags.
Well, unfortunately, because I do kind of float around Twitter, there are more than 13. But it's interesting too that they put 13 up there specifically. But again, people are tired of it being crammed down their throats a lot. And as you said, most people are apolitical, so they're not just eternally plugged in like maybe we are to the different political podcasts and things like that. But they keep seeing this stuff, they keep hearing this stuff, and then, like, the fruits of it is coming back to them, with, like, if their kids are coming back from school with all this radical stuff in their heads, or they can't go to the store in peace, or just the whole series of things. They're tired of it and they don't want it, and so they're going to vote with their dollars and not support it. And I can't really blame them. I do understand that it hurts a lot of people, but like you said, at some point you have to stand up for what you believe in if you stand for anything at all.
Yeah, I think the apolitical people are having to kind of come to grips with what's going on, because it's hard to keep your head in the sand when it's like every place you go to. I read something about Starbucks wasn't allowing their employees to wear pride stuff this month, and people were angry about it. And, like, it makes me wonder, is it because of something that happened? Is it because of the boycotts that have been going around that they, like, are toning it down? What exactly is, but I think that it's gotten to the point where these people have realized they can't just keep doing whatever they want to, because the consumers are fed up. So at least that's something. But
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
I mean, it'd be kind of interesting. Well, I guess we have kind of seen it a little bit in the craft community with bad people that kind of go under in business. But personally, if I was in a big industry and I saw my neighbor lose $27 billion, like billion with a B, I think I'd be a little more cautious also. So it could be a lot of that mostly, because I can't imagine the top brass of a coffee company that sells $7 cups of coffee to be super conservative,
No, they're not
and
at all.
it was, yeah. So I think they're just kind of being cautious at the moment, like a lot of companies are. They're kind of pulling back their pride things, and people are nitpicking about that. But it's like, if they stay afloat, they're gonna change something. So
Right. Well, I think it's interesting too that, I mean, there was the story this past week about Target, and that Targets have been threatened, and the news stories made it sound like it was conservatives threatening them for pride stuff, and it was actually trans activists threatening them for backing away from the pride stuff. And yeah, which is an insane turn of events. But yeah, even there's another story, Call of Duty this week that they have. Okay, so Call of Duty online shooting game, woohoo. But they have buyable outfits for characters, and this one gamer had his own specific buyable outfit. Call of Duty said something about pride. He said, leave little kids alone. And his association with Call of Duty was canceled right then. And if you had bought his Call of Duty skin, his outfit, you can no longer access it anymore. It was just deleted from the entire platform. But he's staying firm. A couple of his gamer friends are saying, hey, if you're going to delete his, delete mine. And Call of Duty did. And yeah, it's happening all over the place. And just, I mean, in places we're on a knitting podcast talking about politics, it'd be crazy out there, but also that it's happening everywhere. It's all around.
Yeah, no, that's really this whole thing has been interesting. But back to the Target thing, what I found most hilarious was the fact that they're like, oh, the conservatives are tearing up our stores, but they took video from the BLM riots in 2020 and said conservatives are wrecking the place. It was flooded out. And I'm like, somebody hurried up and like called that out. And I was cackling because how are you gonna do that? That was your summer of love, you know. How are you gonna try to, but it just goes back to how they try to subvert people and gaslight people into thinking how they want them to think. Because it's like your average Joe saw that, it's like, oh my God, those Nazis are crazy. So you know, but that was debunked pretty quickly. And then with the gamer thing, I found that very interesting because those are some pretty big gamers. I don't keep up with gaming too much, but I do watch the quartering a lot. So he
Yeah.
keeps up with that for me. And I'm like, well, yeah, you know, as influencers, the cringy word for it, we do have a certain sphere of, you know, influence or opinion over the people that follow us. So yeah, if these big gamers are like, oh, I'm deleting this crap, you have a whole swath of your people are just like, well, guess we're gonna, you know, delete it. Guess we're not gonna advertise. I mean, that's a lot of money in free advertisement that's just out the window because they screwed up. There was nothing wrong with what he said. Yeah, leave little kids out of it.
Yep. People, I say all the time that, like, you know what? You said it before, you love people, they are who they are.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
My kids are small enough that they don't need to be worried about it. You know what they did? It's been raining here for 3 days. They have played in a tent for 3 days. Do they need to be worried about who they are gonna wanna do? No, they're kids. The biggest thrill was that we built a tent and I let them sleep in it, and that's all they've done for 2 days. So like, come on, like that's the problem. People just,
it's such
the
an
kids
attack.
don't need that stuff.
They don't. No, it's such an attack. And it's like, you know, a lot of us in the, what do they call us, Gen Z generation, right? We grew up and a lot of us have lived through a lot of different traumas and whatnot's coming up. And I look at how many different people whose lives have been touched by whatever they've been through in their childhood. And it's like, okay, but you guys want to consistently push these things on the new kids that are coming up. Why? So they can be just as like internally damaged and confused and hurt like y'all. Like that doesn't, I can't fathom. I can't fathom it. And that's another like little tiny facet why I pulled back from teaching, because I see the like grossness. Like it's not all teachers, but there's so much ick coming out of the public school system. I just couldn't fathom having to adhere to a curriculum where I am constantly going against my values or constantly putting in not just my own values, but like just general common sense things that should not be taught to children being implemented in all the subjects. That bothers me. So I'm like, why would I get into that, contractually obligated to get into that? I don't think so. And you know, it's kind of sad where the world is going.
It is.
Think
And
about it, yeah.
you said something about how your generation is like putting this on the kids. And as a parent, I had a great childhood. Do not get me wrong. My parents were really good parents. But as a parent, all you want to do is make sure that your kids' lives are better than yours. So why are they putting all this stuff on their kids? That's not making their kids' life better. That might be like a virtue signal for them, but that's not doing anything to help their children at all. It's mentally ill parents trying to shove these ideas on kids is the problem.
And I would also say there's such a, I mean, again, with the phrase leave little kids alone, that you'll have people on one side that are like, you're saying that you're denying people's right to exist, or that kids shouldn't know that some people are gay, or all of that. And on the conservative side, it's like, this is a pornographic graphic novel in schools, and I don't think that should be allowed. They're not even saying you can't buy this book anywhere. They're saying it shouldn't be in the school library. That's what we're talking about, and leave kids alone. That pride parades should not have anybody who are nude or in bondage gear. Let's start there and then move.
Or if that's what you're going to do, it should be 18 and older.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if I was at my house and I showed my kids something like that, I would have them taken away. Like this is the part that doesn't make sense to me. But if I went to Pride and they saw it, then everybody would be like, oh no, that's fine. Like, where how do you justify one? And it doesn't make sense. It just does not make sense.
Not at all. No.
So
And
bad.
I've unfortunately seen some clips from these parades, and I'm like, okay, I'm 25 and don't want to see all that, let alone this poor little kid,
And I mean, I'm sure that just like when the left is putting stuff out there, the right also finds like the one, well, not just the one instance, but you know what I mean? People tend to find the worst part they can find to like show everybody, to make it be like, oh God, but, and I'm sure that not all of them have kids there next to the bondage dudes, but also
A lot of them
parents putting their kid there next to the bondage dudes. Sorry, I did not mean to start talking about that.
bringing back war flashbacks, but it's fine.
Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah, no, I don't understand people. It's like you said, they're still little, they're still full of wonder about like simple things. They don't need to worry about, who's doing what. And it's like, personally, when I grew up, our parents tell us like, hey, if you see this, it means that, but they don't go into explicit detail of, what they're doing now, as opposed to what, like right now, they're just, telling you everything. Nobody wants to know that.
My kids came home from something and they said, hey, so-and-so told me that boys can marry boys. I said, yep, boys can marry boys, but that's not something we believe to be okay based on the Bible. They were like, oh, okay. And they went away. Like that was the conversation. That they don't need to know about anything else. Boys can marry boys. It's allowed. Move on. You're 6, 8, whatever. Go.
Yeah.
Sorry. this thing, I've been all worked up all month long. I can't help it.
No, I do understand. And it just so happens that this lines up when I'm out of school and finally have a break to breathe. But I am so glad that I get to take off in June now, because it does become overwhelming, and it's just like post after post after post after post after post, and it drains me. So I just have to step back from it. And as soon as you log back on, boom, flags. So it's not just you.
Infiniti, how do you feel about Trump?
Oh, you're trying to get me in trouble. Oh my gosh.
Hey, you don't have to tell me. I mean, he got indicted again this week, so it's a thing. He's in the news again.
Yeah, and he's gonna get indicted the next week and the next week and the next week. And he's probably gonna get indicted all the way up until he walks back into the Oval Office. Now, people have their different opinions on that. And, I think people kind of take politicians, especially like nowadays, and they kind of hold them on this pedestal where people have to be perfect. But again, I say you have to kind of look back and see what the person has done, because when you are in politics, you do kind of have to play the game. So it's not just this black or white thing. There are shades of gray in between. And I feel like people are just like, oh, maybe he was holding the pride flag or something bad, or oh, he didn't quite drain the swamp like he said he was, so he's bad. And it's like, don't look at, like, at least I could afford to buy my groceries when he was in office. Now I'm almost living off of credit cards at this point because everything is through the roof. Everywhere you turn, like crime's up. You don't feel safe walking through your neighborhoods anymore. I mean, there's just a list of things that are wrong, horribly wrong under this clown show that's going on right now, as opposed to when this man was in office. Now, was he perfect? No, but he's a human being. Nobody's going to be perfect, actually, according to the doctrine of the Bible. So I wish people wouldn't do that. So long story short, I would not mind him returning to office. Again, people have their misgivings or whatever, and they kind of take things to the extreme. Like there's this lady that I follow, and she just totally went the other way with him, and I'm like, you want him or Mitt Romney? Like,
Right.
like every time you turn around, Mitt Romney's voting on something unfortunate. And it's like, dude, go retire, sit down, and live your life out in the countryside somewhere. Nobody wants.
He needs to be put out to pasture.
I like that,
Well, I saw this past week, it was Jordan Peterson of all people saying that Mike Pence would be a return to normalcy. And I'm like, dude,
Oh my
I thought
God.
I'm again just shocked. I'm like, I thought that whole Jordan Peterson's whole thing was tell the truth even if it hurts. And like,
Well,
why would you want a total weasel? Like, okay, well, he'll say
Yeah.
nice things. That's not helpful. He's not going to do anything.
no. Well, you see, you have to kind of dismiss Jordan Peterson just a little bit because he is Canadian, so he doesn't quite
That's
understand.
true.
But yeah, nobody really wants Mike Pence either, and it's kind of interesting watching the polls. I'm pretty sure if they put a potato in the race, even the potato would beat out Joe Biden right now. But
Right.
there's not
And
any.
Christie would chase it.
No, he would mistake it for a vegetable and go the other way. So,
Right.
but
Dude, if you put ice cream in the race, he would vote for himself. Dude, that dude he's so bad lately. It's been so bad. And I don't know how they can keep pretending it's not.
well, literally, I feel like they're all just like anybody but Trump. So, again, put the rotten potato in there and it'll win or the nomination. But I don't remember what the question was. Train of thought is gone. That happens
No,
so often.
we were just talking about Trump, and you made a point about him that like people don't like certain things he does. I've always said that. Number one, you're not voting for your best friend. I don't
Exactly.
actually have to like him. I could really despise him as a person, but if he's going to do good things for the country, then I would prefer that. Like people have this mindset of like, oh, we have to be best friends. Oh, he has to be like perfect. No, nobody is, for one. For two, like Pence is a weasel, and so is geez, I can't even think of his name. I'm still not sold on DeSantis. There's
Yeah.
nope. But you don't have to like them if they're going to do the right thing. And I don't know that any of those other people are. I'm pretty sure that they're all establishment, even if they try to tell you they're not.
Yeah, no, it's like that one proverb in the Bible where they tell you that you know a tree by its fruit. So if the tree that you planted is supposed to be an apple tree and it's growing tomatoes, it's not an apple tree. So you just have to apply that principle to everything else. And so if you do that and you observe and discern, it's like, okay, well, it looks like this one shining beacon is right. But again, nobody is perfect. So you're not going to get that every time. Like you said, the best friend thing, I think that's a result of internet culture, because on the internet, people are just kind of fishing for likes and dopamine hits and things like that. So they get really drawn into this cycle of, oh, we're internet besties, or oh, they form this bond that's not actually a genuine bond, and then they project that onto politics or whatever else that rules their lives, and it's not healthy, and that's why we're here. So
That is true. Yeah, but I think people think that like you don't have to like somebody as a person for them to do a good job. Like that's okay. If you're going to the doctor and it's a very good doctor and he has no bedside manner, but he's curing you of cancer, you don't have to love him. But he does his job and he does it well. So you know what I mean? And that's kind of the thing. People like lose that.
yeah.
But I think the indictment's just gonna help him.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
no.
People just are seeing how corrupt it is now.
Yeah, most of middle America has said, oh, well, they've done this. I'm voting for them now. So,
Yeah.
it's like they're digging their own grave, and it's almost as though they're doing it on purpose. They're doing like very obvious things. Like, it would appear that if you would want the guy to lose, you would make him actually look bad, not
Yeah.
do this circus show, and he ends up getting exonerated because the evidence comes out. And then you look like a liar. Well, you are a liar, but you're being discredited. You're destroying your own credibility in the process. It's like nobody's going to trust you. Nobody's going to believe the crap that you're pushing on them now. So,
Right. Well, from a very pessimistic point of view, not to be that guy, but I mean, look at the quote most popular president with the most votes ever, and it's a bowl of cold oatmeal. And then Kamala Harris is next to him, and she ain't much better. And you
I
have
think she's worse, actually.
it's like I'd say flat Diet Coke. But anyways, if we're doing food analogies and what our leaders are like.
No, she's rotten milk if she's a food analogy. Sorry.
No, but
Can't stand her.
I know, but they are the actual worst people for the job. And it's kind of an in-your-face thing. It's I don't care what the people actually want. This is what you have because someone else is in charge. It's kind of that feeling of, I don't know. So I think that this is helping Trump with popularity. I'm concerned. I'm concerned about things in general. I'm not concerned about people's positive feelings towards Trump, I guess that. And I hope that turns into votes, and I hope that those votes mean that he's in the White House. Let's say it that way.
Yeah. Again, I say literally anything but what is currently in the Oval Office could be better. I will say, with the exception of probably Michelle Obama and Hillary Clinton, that would be absolute worst. And I feel like the whole country would just spontaneously combust. But,
Yeah.
That would be better.
You know what? Yeah.
We haven't totally burst into flames yet, and it's been close.
Very, very. I'm watching those wildfires a little bit in Canada to see how close they get to California. Because they seem to want to just burn the whole West Coast off the map for whatever reason. But that smog, was the smog as bad as the photos over there in New York?
It was bad. There was a couple days we couldn't go out of our house. But I'm not in New York City. Okay. So, but we still had it really bad. There was a day where everything was yellow and orange all day long. It was so strange because of all the smoke.
Yeah, wow. I saw the pictures. It looked bad.
It was. The air quality was terrible.
We had a couple of, it seemed like kind of a heavy overcast day, but nothing, like the sky didn't turn colors. It was just gray.
Oh, okay. No, it was like the sun was setting and it was like this weird, like yellow, like, oh, it's Armageddon. Super. Like, I've not seen that before. So great. But,
sometimes stuff happens and I'm just like, Lord, is this one of those signs and wonders you were talking about? Bring it on. But, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting too, being the age that I am and being around a bunch of college kids, because I remember when the elections hit and it was just like, oh, we're going to vote blue and get all our loans forgiven. And I was reading a Twitter thread where somebody was like, oh yeah, I'm $200,000 in debt from art school. And don't get me wrong, I'm in art school, but I'm not $200,000 in debt. I'm mostly on scholarships. And I'm like, why would you do that to yourself? I love the arts and I'm in the degree program, but it's not worth $200K. And then I was telling my friend about it and she was like, oh, well, Biden needs to hurry up and do the student loan forgiveness. And so it's like, a lot of people don't even know that that's been ruled out and it's not going to happen. Right. So, they're screwed because they went and did these stupid things, took out these stupid loans for stupid degrees, and they'll never be able to pay it back in their lifetime. So I'm half cynical with that too. But like some people, like the snotty people that I've been in classes with, I kind of laugh at them. I'm like, I know exactly how you voted, and you're gonna get exactly what you asked for. Because there was this one girl in my classes last semester, and she graduated now, but she actually brought up politics, and I brought up one thing about the gas prices, and she short circuited and snipped at me. Now she's graduated, and she's stressed out because she can't find a job. I'm like, well, honey, maybe you should have gone to, business school. Which again, it's kind of a backhanded thing because I'm in art school, but just kind of felt petty.
But you also are somewhat grounded in reality. Like
Yeah.
you're trying to do different things to get yourself, you want to be artsy, but you said, I'm going to do a business. I'm going to try to get myself going in a business, because if you don't become a famous artist, or most people, even if they are famous, that happens like way after they've been around. And so, yeah, you at least have like some sort of plan where you're going to try to do other things also. You're not just going to like hang on a $2,000 degree, $200,000 degree and be like,
I couldn't imagine it, and when I first got into school, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do art ed, because I was like, okay, technically it's like 2 degrees. I can do art or I can do education. And at the time I was like, I can do education to boost my art career. And as I continued through community college, which was another smart thing, but as I continued through community college, I was like, I really like business. Like I like teaching math, but business is probably more my alley. So I started taking like small business classes and things like that. And then when I got to university, I was like, okay, I'm going to take these business classes because I can't actually take my education classes. So actually the lockdowns and all the COVID policies pushed me more so into the business thing, because I'm like, okay, push come to shove in the future, if they ever try this again, I'm not going to get prodded or have stuff crammed up my nose just to keep a job that I probably hate anyway. So I really want to be self-employed. And it's like, as time has gone on, I've also found that I am less likely to adhere to certain authority. Like if I feel like you're pretentious and just kind of snotty, I'm not gonna listen to you. Or something about whatever's in my heart that rebels against that. So I'm like, I'd rather be secure in myself and my skill and what the Lord can provide for me than to go out there and be dependent upon a job and have to, bow and bend the knee to that kind of thing. So I've been doing business. And then last semester in the fall, I dropped that teaching certificate because I'm like, I'm just tired. I'm so tired. All the student teaching and things and observations and stuff that they put you through, it's really kind of worthless because you get most of your skill from being in the actual classroom and interacting with the kids. But they want to steadily add to the curriculum for us to go. And like by the time we end up in the classroom, we're burnt out from school. So when we are in that classroom, we're burnt out. Then you add 30 kids to one teacher, you're going to be more burnt out. And just that's why the kids are turning out like they are from the schools, because the teachers are not there. And there's a lot of facets to why people quit teaching or quit wanting to aspire to teach, but those are probably two big ones. The curriculum stuff, and then just the process of actually getting your certification is crazy. I was like, okay, I have my associates in art ed. Why the heck am I doing the certificate? I wouldn't have gotten out of school until 2026 if I had kept that on my pathway. So I didn't want to do that. I'll graduate next year now because I dropped it. So that was a better choice for me overall. Just kind of keep pathways open. Okay, there you go.
I was just going to say a little bit about, working on small business stuff that, another thing that's really cool about you is that you have your own website that you not only sell, your patterns and, things that you've made, things that you've knit or crocheted, your yarn bowls and vases and all of that, but it's all on your own platform too, that you're not on Etsy, you're not on other things, that you're building it up yourself.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me. So I started everything at the same time, more or less in 2018. I started building my website in the summer when I was taking a graphic design class. And it took me up until 2021 to actually launch it. So it was a long time in the making. But in that time, I had to bounce around several different platforms and I hated it. We talked about Ravelry a little bit. I was there when Craftsy was actually good. I was on there with my patterns.
Right.
Etsy, I just closed my Etsy shop back in February, I think, because it's just not worth the energy. But I've always, again, with the lockdowns and how things were panning out with either the censorship or, businesses just being shuttered, I'm like, I want my own space. It might cost me more, but at least if I'm in my own space, I can post mostly what I want to or what I need to and build my brand and have that recognition and just kind of put all the energy into myself as opposed to all these other platforms that are making money off of me and I'm not really making anything off of it at all. So that's, I don't know, I've always been a deep thinker about things, and so I worry a lot, and I think that has pushed me to think down several pathways or whatever about different things. So with my business, again, I really wanted my own central thing where I can control what's going on as opposed to like Instagram or YouTube, whatever. It's like, oh, we don't like what you said or we don't like what you're doing, goodbye. I didn't want that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, we know about that.
I know you guys do. You just went missing a few times on YouTube.
Only a couple, just a couple. We mostly toe the line, right, Anne? We try. She's like, no, we don't.
That's the thing, though, that there's a lot of people on YouTube who are like, okay, so we're not going to say this or we're not going to say that. And it's like, I get it, but also you never know what they're going to say is, wrong this week. The times that we've been taken off, it's for, well, unspecified and then kind of innocuous stuff. So just, I don't know.
Well,
Say what you like.
there was the one time I named the episode Masks, Masks, and More Masks, and they really, really didn't like that.
Okay, fine.
I think they knew where I was going with that one, but that was my bad. I should have thought about that for a minute.
Yeah, but I mean, you're probably saying exactly what everybody else was thinking, so they really didn't like that.
Right.
But they're always shifting the window of what's allowed. And then now I think they're kind of retroactively going back and taking people's stuff down. So it's like, what can you do?
Yeah. Instagram likes to do that to me too. There'll be a post from like 2 years ago and people are like, oh, this is now fact checked. And I'm like,
From
really?
2 years ago?
And it was probably a joke, but you guys missed that because the thing about being liberal is you can't have much of a sense of humor anymore because everything is too serious. Like, geez, man.
I feel like people like that, they're just like, you can have more fun being a liberal and all that. I'm like, oh yes, how's your blood pressure though?
Right.
So you're pent up about everything. Let loose a little bit. Have fun. But no, everything's offensive now. You can't say this, you can't do that. It's like, even if it's a word that like relates to crafting, because there's a lot of words that relate to knitting that people don't like now.
Right.
Like Kitchener stitch.
I saw that in real time on Twitter. And I'd pointedly been avoiding this lady on Twitter because I'm like, pronouns in the bio, probably don't want to deal. So I don't know why she popped up in my feed one day. I'm like, are you serious? And I was tempted to write a blog post just to pointedly talk about the Kitchener stitch. I didn't do it.
That's funny. Neil did a nice in-depth deep dive, if anybody missed that. I believe it was in the last issue of Black magazine. So
okay.
In case you want to know what happened with the Kitchener stitch, he summed it up for us nicely.
Okay.
But yeah, there's just so much. Everybody's so scared of all the words and all the things. Like you can't just have an opinion or do something that makes you happy, or heaven forbid you say, I just want to craft.
Yeah. And the way I look at it too now, it's like, at first I was kind of afraid. I'm like, okay, there's this new thing called being canceled. Okay. But as I've gone on, I'm like, 9 times out of 10, the people that are canceling me, they were probably just lurking and not supporting my business anyway. So I might as well be a little more outspoken with my opinions and just be supported for who I am, as opposed to putting on a face. It's exhausting, first of all, but also there's no point in hiding because somebody's going to find something you said at some point or remember something you said at some point, and then it's all going to go downhill anyway. So might as well have fun with it.
Right.
It's kind of, I was going to say, which is why I enjoy you guys' podcast when I can tune in. It's just nice to see people not caring,
That's us. We don't care.
Well, thank you. And yeah, you're right. It is It is exhausting though. It's the whole living a lie thing and what can you say, and you have to think about your words every time before you say them, and it's like, why? Just let it go. Just okay, fine. We disagree. Bummer. See ya. Hope we can still be friends.
Yeah, it's funny when you say that, they turn around and block you, and it's like, oh, well, I guess not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I love the people who really hate us and hate all the things we say. And so then we're like, hey, we would love to talk to you about why you feel that way.
Oh, they hate
And then they go
talking.
block you. They won't talk.
Yeah, no, no,
If go ahead.
no, I was gonna say just sunlight is the best disinfectant, but go ahead.
That's a good one. No, they can't back up their arguments for the most part. So that's why they're scared. Anne and I do not agree on everything. People are surprised to hear that, but we're not the same person. And it's just normal. It's normal to be able to have somebody that you don't agree or see eye to eye on everything and still get along. But heaven forbid, the internet's made everybody so.
Yeah,
The internet has put everybody in silos. It's terrible.
yeah, I agree with that. And it's like nowadays everything's so tied into the internet, it's hard to pull people back from that. And you wonder how you're ever going to get back to a point where people are appealing to humanity more so than whatever likes or dislikes they get on a computer screen. They're just addicted to it. Yeah, no, nobody's going to agree 100% with anybody ever. So people should just grow up a little bit.
Well, I mean, how can you expect them to grow up when the president of the United States is the reason that you can no longer have dislikes on YouTube? Because he was getting so many of them that they took that option away because they don't want you to know what's going on.
Oh no, and I found it hilarious when he first got in that inauguration video. The dislike bar was like this and the like bar was like this, and I was like just laughing so I didn't cry. And I'm like, well, at least nobody likes it, right? But you're right. But in a couple of weeks, they were like, oh, we're going to take this away for the mental health of creators. I'm like, my mental health is not any better because you took away a dislike button.
Right. And I mean,
creators can still see their dislikes anyways. So
yeah, but it's not out on display. You have to kind of go look for it now. But people do not agree with me. Once in a while, I do feel a little bit sad about it when someone's real mean, but then I get over it. And I've never been sad about dislikes per se. When somebody calls me names, I do get upset about that. But I've come to terms with the fact that I'm a racist, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobe. I forgot something, but all of those, and that's okay. I'm okay with that now.
Gosh, a racist? I'm on the wrong podcast.
no.
Well,
I warned you beforehand.
Did, but no, I think usually when people start complaining about somebody being a racist on the internet, I'm like, well, check out their content first and let me verify that, because 9 out of 10 they're not. But again, we've followed each other for a long time, and it's like, you might not agree on everything, but usually if people are just kind of chill and you guys can agree on some things, you just kind of vibe together and it's fine.
Yeah. Well, we live in the world where everybody has to be in the same exact mindset as you, and if they're not, then you just write them off. They're just useless.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of fine with that too. I don't like fickle people. I would so much rather be alone in my craft room, not bothered by other people. So that they're doing me a favor. I'm not worth it.
Infiniti's like, fine. You don't want me? Good.
Yes. Yeah, because I mean, no, you look at these people that do that kind of stuff, and then you the very next post they make is like, oh, my depression is crippling and I cannot see a future for myself. And I was like, well, it's in a better spot than the other right now. So, and just let them have their corner. Oh my gosh. Which reminds me of why I stopped dyeing my hair, because I used to love hair dye and putting the fun colors in my hair. But I swear, after 2020 and we were all locked down and whatnot, and I got to see all the, lovely, peaceful protesters and what they look like, I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? And so I started growing my hair back out and like treating it and stuff so it'll be healthy again. Like I'm not dyeing my hair anymore because I didn't want to be lumped in with all the crazies that are like my age running out here doing like busting people's windows out and robbing stores. I'm like, I'm good.
It's kind of it's like, oh yeah, hair in fun colors. That's great. Well, good time. It's like, that's Arkham Asylum. How about not?
Yeah, like, oh no, if I dye my hair silver again, somebody's gonna walk up to me with a comrade pin. I'm good. No, thank you.
Hey, though, because I don't know. I love dyed silver hair. I think it's so pretty, but it's like,
Yeah, it's not worth the association risk anymore.
I'm gonna do it just because I am gonna take back colored hair dye.
Yeah.
Maybe I've been talking about it for a while. I used to dye like the bottom half of my hair, and then because I usually wear it in braids, I thought it would be super cute because then the braids would be like, I have to do it someday. I haven't had time, but maybe someday. But yeah, no, it's weird how like I think that's an internet thing too. It used to be like all the like edgy people dyed their hair crazy colors and stuff, and now it's like, oh, if you have blue hair, we know you're a liberal, so I'm good.
Yeah,
thanks.
Yeah, and that's hilarious because I grew up in that point. I had my little emo phase and everything. I didn't dye my hair at that point, but I listened to all the rock bands and whatnots. And I'm like, okay, when I get old enough and I got a job, I'm gonna dye my hair, and I did it. And then everything went downhill, and I'm like, I quit. So, like, being emo is no longer cool.
Like take the fun out of an emo phase. It's just awesome.
Like, you kids will never know the fun of listening to Fall Out Boy and like putting on 5 layers of eyeliner and it not being a weird marker for you in public, Those are the days.
Perfect. The good old days.
Yeah.
You could could just be the goth kid and nobody would be like prescribing medication to you. You'd just be like, okay, it's you. You're fine.
It's a phase. Let them go.
Yeah.
Not now.
I mean, you guys are both a bunch younger than me. So like, I don't even know. Like, I remember the Marilyn Manson thing where everybody had the eyeliner and then like the weird gloves on and the like platform boots. And it was nuts back in the, dude, I'm a kid from the 80s. It was nuts when I was growing up.
I think those goths were interesting. I have to say, I've seen pictures. Like, I've
seen pictures. Oh, my heart.
Sorry. If it makes you feel any better, I'm very old timey. I was kind of raised by my grandparents, so a little bit of that is in there. But oh my gosh, yeah, no. I think the fishnets and such are still like in the platform boots are still a thing. I have an acquaintance of mine that dresses like that every day. I'm like, lady, it is 101 degrees. Why are you wearing all black? Are you okay? But it's time to be alive.
I don't know.
This is a lot of fun. I never get to do interviews, so this is really cool for me. And like if I'm going live, I'm just rambling, so I, don't have this, but this is cool.
We'll have to have you knitting wars.
I was just gonna say that. Knitting wars is fun.
Chicken wars?
Knitting wars? Do you ever see our Tuesday show?
Oh, knitting wars. No, I never see the Tuesdays.
Well, on Tuesdays we go live with friends and we just talk nonsense.
Oh, that's great.
So you should come on one of those. But we could talk all kinds of random stuff, but is there anything we need to talk about that's pertinent to, your shop, you, stuff?
Well,
like we missed?
Probably mostly right now. I'm just trying to figure out maybe not, I'm trying to say target audience. I don't know. I'm trying to get to a point where my shop is actually supporting what I'm doing, because up until this point, I've just been kind of audience building and putting out my content, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love what I do. However, it's trying to correlate that with actually making a living. Like last September, I fell getting out of my car at a Quick Trip, very Missouri thing, but I broke this front tooth and it's fractured across the root. And, dentistry is not cheap. So I've been trying to like raise funds to get that fixed because they're like, you shattered it up the root. So
Oh
they'd have to
no.
extract it. Yeah. I haven't been able to eat firm foods like apples and stuff since September.
Wow.
So
Oh.
yeah, like if I bite too hard on something, this thing will break and that root will be exposed.
Right.
And I've tried to record videos like my channel chats of my podcast for my channel. I'm trying to record things like that, but I get worked up when I do that. So I've been trying to find a calm way to be like, hey, can you support my content without like freaking out? So right now, like if people want to support my content, want to continue seeing my content beyond next summer, where I'll be looking at hopefully not going into teaching, but where I'll be looking at going into full-time work or whatever, then they can, find my patterns on my website. Like I said, I have everything on my website. So between the patterns, the yarn bowls, the vases, I do have a merch shop. I have a coffee page too, but I don't really like asking for donations. I feel like I want to like make a living with the work of my hands. So donations usually aren't my thing. But if people want to give that, then I don't reject it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
If
no,
a couple coffees will help that tooth,
yeah, I think I'm at like 8% of my goal. I have to come up with like $5,000 for the dental school if they ever call me back. I got a referral back in February and they have not called me back.
Oh
So
no.
I'm kind of looking at a private practice, but I'm like, I don't know what the private practice is going to charge me. The exam is like $400. So
Right.
just have that laying around.
Yeah.
And I have to come up with like textbook costs and things like that because I am still in school for now. So it's been an ordeal with that. That's probably the most pressing thing for me right now.
Right.
Yeah, so people can check out your shop.
Yeah.
You have merch. You have patterns.
Mm-hmm. And
The
my
pottery is cool. The
Thank
pottery
you.
is cool, guys.
Yeah.
I saw one that spoke to me, and then somebody else had already bought it. So I was now I've got to go back to waiting because I'm sure
Which one
something will
was
come.
it?
I don't know. It may have had. I'll message you later.
Okay.
I'll show you.
It had to have been from the first batch of stuff because I did a bunch of raku last semester, which was fun because it's basically playing with fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I got some really interesting results from this experimental phase I put on everything. There could have been one of those.
It may have been. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure when I went to find it, it was already gone. I was like, well, that makes sense because it was really cool. So,
Oh man,
hey, it's
next
all
time.
good.
Next
It's
time.
all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then where can they find your content? Are your videos on your website too?
No, so my videos are on YouTube, but they are mirrored to Rumble.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
So like
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I found Rumble back in 2020 and I'm like, nobody's on this. Let me jump on it. And so I have a whole community over there too. And I just kind of cross post everything.
Right. And that's kind of a thing too with Rumble that is like, okay, so there's a lot of conservative content there, but there's not a lot of, kind of leisure podcasts. There's not a lot of instruction videos, which is very important. That you do a lot of different crochet tutorials, and that's something that is definitely needed there.
Yeah, and I definitely saw an opening there, and I'm like, well, if I'm nothing if not opportunistic, so let's dive into that.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool. I think within the first year, I got up to 25,000 subscribers over there, which was wild.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've kind of plateaued over there around that number, which is fine. I don't mind that. I just like the fact that people are enjoying my content, and people again, it's really nice when people are like, "Oh, I love how you teach," or "Oh, this helped me out so much," because it just puts a smile to my face and makes me want to keep hitting that record button. So that little spiel, but yeah.
Well, I mean, Anne and I love doing our show, but there is an element of burnout when you are consistently doing something every week. And yeah, we have people interact with us and stuff, but still those comments are needed because otherwise sometimes it just feels like you're talking into the void. And it's good to know that people really are getting things out of what you're doing because that's what makes you keep going.
Most definitely, yeah. Like there have been a lot of times where I'm like, you know what, I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. And I just get those nice comments out of nowhere. Oh, touched my heart. I guess I'll go make a few more tutorials now. So people,
Mhm.
I don't think people really understand the value that we as creators find in their positive interaction. It's kind of funny
Yeah.
when people kind of snip at you, like they have no reason to really snip at you for the content that you did put up. And then you just respond with a very nice comment. I feel like it burns them up a little bit. And that's kind of fun for me too.
So even a little joy from the haters.
Most definitely. Have to find that silver lining somewhere.
Yep. So people can find you at infinitycraftco.com, right?
It's infiniticraftingcompany.com.
infinitycraftingcompany.com, and it's with an I, like your name.
Yeah, it's spelled like the
So
car. I always tell people it's spelled like the car.
good to know. Because I was looking for it and I spelled it with a Y, and I'm like, it's not coming up. So it's got an I.
Yeah.
Make sure you look for. I will put the link in the description. And yeah, that's awesome. So check out all of her stuff. She's got all kinds of different things. She's got tutorials. She's got patterns and finished products. If you're not a knitter or crocheter, but you like something, there's some finished things on there. So check it out. Oh yeah. Yeah. Don't forget to join us for Shark Week. It's going to be here in like 2 weeks when you guys are seeing this. So don't forget, it's coming. Be ready to start your projects. And so you can find Infiniti on Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, and her website, infinitycraftingcompany.com. And thanks for joining us today. It's been so much fun.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.